agricultural performance in the first quarter of the year 2022. So today we have with us the Chief Agronomist and also the Director of Rural Development in the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs, and Mr. Pan Wenbo, who is the Director of the Cropping Farming Director, and also Mr. Yang Zhenhai, who is the Director of the Animal Husbandry Industries, and also Madam Chen Ping, who is the Director of the Marketing Informations. So we are going to give the floor to our Chief Agronomist to give our general introductions. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today marks the grain rain and the 24 solar terms, which is marking the beginning and crucial period for the spring plowing times. So here I'm going to bring you the latest development of the agriculture and rural affairs in China. In the recent few years, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs has followed the strategies put forward by General Secretary Xi Jinping, and we have also emphasizing on the emergency packaging of the basket of the people, and we have also guaranteed stabilities in the market. At the same time, we also consolidated with what we have achieved in the poverty lifting campaign, focusing on the rural affairs. In the first quarter of the year 2022, the agriculture and rural affairs has registered a very steady growth, which is represented in the following 6 aspects. The first one is that we have done a very efficient plowing time in the spring. Facing unprecedented situations home and abroad, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs is focusing on the spring plowing times, and we have done a very good job in the spring plowing times. The summer crops and the summer gains is expected higher than this year. And the last winter, the northern part of China has experienced the cold wave. The ministry has understood the latest development of the cold wave, and we have also upgraded the different grades. Currently, for the different breeds, which is registered at 89%, that is 70% higher compared with the winter grains and 3% lower than year-on-year growth. That is to say, we have the foundations for the harvest this year. The preparations of the summer grain is also goes very well. According to the data in the Ministry of Agriculture, the spring plowing time has been finished, and also the total weight is registered at 700,000 mu. This is an official target. This is an important target for the agriculture industries. Currently, we are also focusing on the cash crops like rapeseed. The target, including the harvest of the rapeseed, has been granted to different provinces and cities. Secondly, we also launched a campaign for the food basket. We guaranteed the smooth operations of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympic and Paralympic. According to the data from the NBS, in the first quarter this year, we have registered a total growth of the pork, including for around 41 million. That is 1% higher than the number last year. And the oil production is registered a very steady growth. The output of pork, beef, mutton, and poultry has registered at 8.9%. The fishery industry is registered an increase at 2.5%. We have a very steady supply of the vegetables, while the vegetables supplying is growing at 3%. The qualification ratios for the agricultural product is registered at 97%. Thirdly, we have also consolidated the result we achieved in the campaign against poverty. We have also facilitated the higher harvest year by year. We have promoted a whole industrial chain foundations. At the same time, we have also registered a small volumes credit granted to the registered people. Currently, we have issued for around 11.9 billion RMBs small loan and credit, which is going to support the rural and agricultural areas. We have lifted 21 million people out of the poverty. Fourthly, the rural regions is developed quite rapidly. We are trying to figure out the multiple values of the rural areas. The productions of the rural area is registered at a very steady growth. On March, the PMI is registered at 50.3%. That is 0.8% higher than the manufacturing industries. In the first quarter, the manufacturing industry is registered at a 10% growth. The new industries and the new sectors is kept a very good momentum. The rural areas is becoming the top one destinations for the citizens to spend their holidays and vacations. The rural people and also the farmers is also started their self-entrepreneurship. And for this year, we have also arranged for around 50 different farms and 10 different industries, adjusting for around 11 different sectors. This is also good for the high-quality development. Fifthly, we have also promoted the high-quality development in the rural affairs. We have steadfast promoted the rapid development of the rural constructions. We have also improved the environment rural and the rural areas, transforming the tidy village to a beautiful village. We have also registered the rural areas undertaking for the different areas. By the end of March, we have consolidated for around 22 million rural corporates, covering for around 38.4% of the villages across the country. We have also actively promoted the investment in the agricultural industries and rural affairs. We have also enlarged supplying channels to the agricultural industries. In the first quarter of this year, the total investment in the agricultural sectors is registered at 22 million RMBs. That is 18.8% year-on-year growth. Sixthly, we are seeing a rapid growth in the household per capita revenues for the rural affairs. The total revenues of the rural affairs is actually registered at 18,922 RMB. That is 80% higher compared with the citizens. And also the monthly revenue of the rural area is registered at 4,626 RMBs. Generally speaking, in the first quarter, the agricultural industries and the rural areas has kept a very good momentum and maintained a very steady growth. We are facing a turbulence in the international grain market, with the pressure hanging over the head of the farmers and peasants, bringing a lot of questions and difficulties, which needs all of us to pay a higher attention to. Moving into the next stage, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs is going to follow the instructions of the CBC Central Committee and State Council. We are going to maintain the food security of our country, keep the very steady supply of the rural product, and also the steady growth of the rural areas. And we are going to use our concrete actions to maintain the safe openings of the 20 sessions of the CPPCC. So please Now the floor is open up for questions. Please identify your affiliated institution before the questions. With Xinhua News Agency, in the first quarter, the revenues of the peasants and also the revenues for the farmers has registered a very rapid growth. Moving into the next stage, what kind of actions will the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs taken to guarantee a safe revenue of the farmers and peasants? Thank you very much. To promote a steady income is also the top priorities of our ministry. In the first quarter this year, I have mentioned that the average revenue of the people living in the rural areas is 5,538 RMBs. That is 2.1% higher than we have seen in the city areas, which is due to two reasons. The first one is that in the spring plowing time, the rural migrant workers has migrated back to the city, which is going to create a large share of the income. The second one is that the spring preparation has increased the family revenues. According to the situations in the spring plowing times, there's a lot of questions and difficulties. For example, the rise and turbulence of the COVID-19 do provide a lot of difficulties for the farmers to sell their agricultural products. The second one is that a rising rural cost and also the cost from the machineries in the rural area do pose a lot of difficulties. Forging ahead, we are going to consolidate the effort that we have achieved. I think that we should focusing on the unemployment and also the industrial chains. First, we are going to develop the rural industries. This is a very important part for us to increase our incomes. The key part is to lead the farmers to find a job locally speaking. And we should also trying to figure out the multiple values of the rural areas, promoting the vacations and tourist destinations for the rural areas. At the same time, we should also promote the e-commerce platforms to be blossom in the rural areas. Especially, we should develop the special industry development in the poverty-stricken areas. Second, we should also stabilize the job market for the farmers and peasants. So far, the migrant worker is actually accounting for 40% of the total job market. Moving to the next stage, we are going to encourage the farmers to find a nearby job. We are also going to launch a series of the campaigns to build up the local industries. We are also going to focus on the high-quality agricultural field, as well as lifting the farmers out of the poverty. I think that all of those people who is living in the rural areas could find a job at their home. We should also lead the migrant workers to find a job locally speaking. In the first quarter this year, the migrant workers is accounting for 1,100 million, which is a very good number. Moving into the next stage, we are going to consolidate the effort that we have achieved, improving the qualities for the migrant workers and stabilizing the markets. Thirdly, we are going to widen the channels for the agriculture entrepreneurship. This is going to provide new channels for their revenues. Because of the COVID-19, a lot of migrant workers went back to their homes. According to the statistics, one startup project can bring 6 to 7 jobs in the rural market. We are going to consolidate the effort in this front, and this is going to be a revenue generator for the farmers. Next question. Thank you very much. With Red Star News. On the April the 18th, the National Bureau of Statistics mentioned that the consumption of pork in the first quarter has been dropped by 48.8%. So what kind of measures will the Ministry of Agriculture take to deal with that sharp drop? So I'm going to direct this question to my colleagues at the animal husbandry sectors. Thank you very much for your concern about the pig stock industries. I'd like to give you a brief introduction from the production and sales in the market. From the production perspectives, in the year 2021, the productions of the pigs and pork has kept a very stable momentum. In the first quarter, 1,100 pigs were registered in stocks. And for the consecutive 9 months, the breeding source is growing. According to the statistics in the National Bureau of Statistics, in the first quarter of this year, the total breeding source in stock is in a reasonable range from the market and the price range. In the first quarter, the total price for the pigs is facing a downward trend. In the team sweeping festival, the teaming festivals, with the effort of the national policies, there is a shift in the supply and demand. In the third quarter of this year, for the consecutive 16 weeks, the momentum has been continued. On the 19th of April, according to the latest data of the Anhui Province's random market, the price for the pork is 30.8%. On March, for one of the pig get out of the stock, it is losing 358 RMBs. That is 20 RMBs more than the number in February. According to the situation, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs has spread information through the mainstream media. We have also opened up the hotlines to help the breeders and also the farmers to get rid of these difficult times. Moving into the next stage, we are going to do the three efforts in the three different perspectives. We are going to enhance the alarming systems and promoting all the industries to help the brewers. Currently, the companies and also the butchering companies has encountered a lot of difficulties, and they feel the shortage in the cash flows. The Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Physical Policies, Ministry of Commerce has printed the policies to require that do not get out of the loans of the agriculture and pig breeding industries. The second one is that we are going to consolidate the effort between the COVID-19 pandemics. We have also going to start the vaccinations for the major animals. At the same time, we are going to cleansing the pigs. And one thing I need to emphasize is that for all the different localities, they should do a very good prevention jobs and in the vaccinations. And thirdly, because some of the localities has facing the shortage of the foods of the pigs, we are going to allocate the resources helping the breeders to solve their questions and maintain a steady growth. Our expert team has expected that with the stabilizing of the cost in terms of the feed, in the third quarter this year, the animal husbandry industries and the pig husbandry industry is going to be back to the normal range. But there are some of the factors for turbulence. But here I hope that all the different breeders could do a good job in stabilizing the stocks of the pigs. Thank you very much. China Agriculture Magazine's COVID-19 pandemic has reached the productions of the spring grains. So can you bring me the latest update of the agricultural production in the spring sectors? So what kind of measures did you take? Thank you very much for your question. I'm going to direct this question to the crop farming sectors. Actually, you have two questions. The first question is about the latest development of the spring plowing season. The second question is about the COVID-19's impact to the spring plowing season. For the latest development of the spring plowing season, today is the solar terms of the green rain. After the green rain, there is going to be a lot of plowing activities. This year, we have started the preparations of the spring plowing at an early stage, and we started the preparation at the end of last year. After the pandemic, for each one of the breed, for each one of the seed, we have allocated for the different localities. We started a special meeting on the summer grain and stabilizing the production of corns. At the same time, we have coordinated the supplies of the fertilizers, especially for the potassiums, and we have also encountered different weather conditions. I think that we have a very good start with the temperatures and also the precipitations considered. More and more farmers are considering to plow more fields in the spring sectors. Let's talk about the latest development in the spring plowing season. By the end of yesterday, April the 19th, the total plowing areas across the country is 1.19 acres of land. That is 2.3% quicker than we expected. In southern China, the total plowing areas is registered at 24.3 acres of land. In the northeast of China, the wheat and also the rice has been plowed at a faster speed compared with last year. Let's talk about your second question, the COVID-19 pandemic's effect to the spring plowing season. Currently, according to the latest information that we have gathered, because of the COVID-19 lockdown, there is a lot of difficulties in the flowing of the agriculture materials, which is affecting the further development of the agriculture industries. We think the impact is only regional and limited. The major reason is because of the following sectors. The first one is that the COVID-19 pandemic is concentrated in the city areas. The prevention and control situations and the agricultural areas is quite different. The farmers is scattered in their field, so there is not so much risk for them to cluster up and being affected by the COVID-19. The second reason is because currently we are at the finishing time for the spring plowing seasons, and we have finished around 90% of the spring plowing seasons. And thirdly, we have encountered a rapid recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we could see that we have granted the agricultural materials to each one of the households. The plottings for the wheat and also plotting for the rice in the Jilin is actually into the finishing stage. The major grain in Shanghai's rural area is going to be plowed at the end of May. At the beginning of June, they are going to start to plant the rice in the field affected by the COVID-19. There is some varieties in Shanghai which is being affected. But by plowing through the machines, we can make up for the losses. To be frankly, because of the simple policies in some of the city governments, and provincial governments. This is creating a lot of difficulties for the farmers to go to the field, for the machines to go to the field, and also for the migrant workers to go back to home and plowing their field. We have concerned about these difficulties, and we have also issued a lot of government policies supporting for the rural materials. For the distinct questions, we have came up with 8 different measures. In the end of the March, our ministry has led a special work team to go to the Jilin province to guide the local work, and they have not come back yet. They are still working in Jilin. We have also set up the hotlines and also WeChat official account to give the special guidance to the farmers. So currently, we are at the crucial period for the prevention and control of the COVID-19. This is also a crucial period for the spring plowing season. We should working on the 2 fronts. We are going to work together with the relevant ministries to start our efforts from the demand of the farmers. And we are also going to come up with the concrete measures, including the guidelines, the thresholds, and this is going to be a layer-based, differentiated policies targeting different farming land. And this is also going to improve the qualities for the plowing. At the same time, we should also let the entities in the market play its rules. We have entrusted the whole plowing season into the market entities. This is also going to help the small farm household to start their spring plowing. And we are not going to delay for 1 day or for 1 acre of land. This is also going to finish our task with high quality. Here I want to emphasize that under the leadership of the prevention and control mechanisms of the State Council, we have consolidated the spring plowing season, and I think that the different localities should be accounted for the spring plowing result. For those who are only emphasizing at the prevention and control of the COVID-19, instead of the steady supply of agri-products, we are going to follow the law and let the responsible person shoulder their legal responsibility. Thank you very much. With China Daily, this year marks the 5th year of the rejuvenating rural areas strategies. So what kind of a new achievement do we have for this year? Thank you very much for your question. The rural revitalization strategy is one of the major strategies after the 19th Congress. For the past 5 years, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs has fully implemented the strategies and tasks granted by the CBC Central Committee. And we have also achieved very active progress. I think there are several different markers for the latest progressions. The first one is that we have guaranteed a steady growth, steady supply in the grains. The grain production has been maintained at higher than 1.5 trillion kilograms. Second, we are actually achieving a victory in the battlefield against poverty. We have listed the Chinese people out of poverty in the year 2020, and we are also not to seeing a return of the poverty in a scale. Thirdly, we have also widened the revenue channels for the farmers. The total numbers of the farmers have been the total income of the farmers has been growing from 2.5 trillion to 3.7 trillion. That is a huge change, and also it has changed the outlook of the rural areas. At the same time, we have also launched serious campaigns for the rural reforms, while we are steadfast ramped up the effort in the rural governance. Currently, the 3 rural work is becoming an overall comprehensive effort. Moving into the next stage, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs is going to implement the strategies put forward by the State Council, and we are going to use the tourism ecological preservations to speed up our efforts. Town by town, county by county, and city by city, we are going to see a new development in the rural areas. From our effort, I think we are going to follow in on the three aspects. We have two key pillars and three cores. For the two key pillars, we are going to stabilize the grain production that is going to safeguard the food security for our country. We have designed a mechanism while the machine is going to be the dominant force. The total production of the grain is going to be kept at above 1.3 trillion tons. Second, we are also going to prevent the poverty-stricken area return to poverty on a large scale. We are also going to figure out the sustainable development models. Secondly, we are going to consolidate the effort working on the three key areas. The first one is that we are going to promote the steady growth of the rural areas, especially for the rural industries. Focusing on the productions of the rural areas, we are going to build the key income generators for the farmers. By using the e-commerce platforms in the rural areas, we are going to create more revenues for the farmers. This is also going to consolidate our foundations and pave the way for the future development. Secondly, we are also going to construct the rural areas. This is also going to deepen the stabilizing effect, and while promoting the green and sustainable development in the rural areas. Thirdly, we are going to promote the steady growth of the rural areas. We are also going to consolidate the effort in the rural areas and improve the high-quality development of the rural areas and promote the high-quality, steady growth of the rural areas. Thirdly, we are going to maintain a very good mechanisms, and this is also going to be helpful for the dynamic transformations of the rural areas. For the first stage or first steps, we are going to build mechanisms for the revitalizations of the rural areas. First, we are going to build accounting systems while put into the different responsibilities on the different shoulders of the different officials. Second, we are going to conduct a series of the effort and the auditings. At the same time, we are going to build a monitoring system. Thirdly, we are also going to strengthen the agricultural plowing fields, stabilizing the income in the field. Fourthly, we are also going to motivate different sectors in society, stabilizing the smooth operations of the private economy's role in promoting the development of the agricultural sector. Thank you. Thank you very much. With coverage news, in some of the COVID-stricken regions, the rise of the vegetables and fruits is growing quite sharply. How can you guarantee a steady support of these regions? Thank you very much for your question. We are going to give this question to the directors of the market and price in the ministry. Thank you very much for this vegetable market project. In our country, the supply of vegetables and fruits is a very reasonable sector. According to the patterns that we have experienced in the previous sectors, there is a drop of the vegetable price after the spring because of the sufficient production in the market. This year, we are seeing a slowing and the downwardness of this trend because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Currently, we have supplied a lot of foods, and I think our chief agronomist has told you the latest update. Currently, the total acres of the agricultural production is 7,400, which is 100%, which is 10% growth. The supply of the pork, beef, mutton, and poultry, and also eggs can satisfy the demand of the citizens because of the scattered occurring of the COVID-19 pandemic. In some of the regions and cities, they have encountered an insufficient supply. Our ministry is working together with other different ministries, and we have also registered and surveyed the supply and demand data for 36 cities. We have also contacting with 100 different supplying companies across the country. Moving into the next step, we are going to work on the following 5 fronts. The first one is that we are going to strengthen the production of the vegetable baskets. We are also going to encourage the broadleaf vegetables in the big cities. We are also going to guarantee the pigs out of the stock and fish out of the pool is going to be supplied into the market. We are also going to open up the e-commerce platforms for the output for the different agricultural products. Secondly, we are going to guarantee a logistic for these vegetables and baskets. The oil, vegetable, fruits, meat, egg, and poultry is going to be the major supplying baskets for the COVID-19 prevention and control. We are going to give them the certifications first for the cross-province trafficking trucks with the permits and with the grantings of the local cities. There is not going to be any obstructions. And thirdly, we are also going to promote a whole region, whole area dynamic management. For one vehicle, they are going to undergo several different rounds of the sterilizations while changing. The drivers can be shifted for multiple times while strictly implementing the health checks and also the COVID-19 checks. For the truck drivers, in principle, they are not going to be quarantined. We are also going to promote the rapid development in the agricultures. And fourthly, we are also going to connect the vegetable baskets to promote the steady supply and demand relations between the major and mega cities with the market, stabilizing the memberships. For those who are stockpiles in this special areas, we are going to crack down their illegal activities. Fifthly, we are also going to build up a responsible mechanism for the vegetable basket for those of the companies and also those of the institutions involved in the smooth guarantee of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are going to grant their performance. This is our effort to guarantee a smooth supply of the vegetables. Thank you very much. As one of the producers for the agri-product, the production in Jilin province has always been under the impact of the COVID-19. So how will you address such problems? Thank you. The Jilin province is one of the major bread baskets of our country. The yearly production of the Jilin province is for around 1.1 million. So Jilin province is located in the northeast part of China, where the crops can only grow by one season. The major crops in the Jilin province is wheat, rice, and corns. In March and April, it is the spring preparation stage, and the wheat is going to be plowed at the end of the April, while the corn is also being plowed at the end of the April and also in the beginning of the May. The COVID-19 outbreak in Jilin province broke out in March, and currently all the manufacture and agricultural activities has been back to normal. I think the COVID-19 pandemic has been affecting the preparation stage for the spring plowing times with the informations. There are some of the blockage of the trucks in the Jilin province, and also the farmers' activities in the Jilin province has also been blocked. And there are some of the farmers who are stayed in the cities and they cannot go back to their fields. That is to say, the preparational time is slower than what we have experienced in the regular years. For example, one data we have gathered is that at the end of March, the consumption of the fertilizers is only 68% of the number compared with the previous years. Facing this difficult situation, the Ministry of Agriculture has came up with a series of the measures. First is that in the beginning of the March, we have sent a special workforce to go to Jilin. Second, we have also set up the hotlines to make sure a hotline, and also this is also going to help us with the downwardness of the agricultural cost. According to the statistics, by setting up the hotlines, we have got 1,667 different calls. A lot of calls is for the agriculture skills and also for the local government policies. The ministry and also the Jilin province is also working on the two fronts. On one hand, it is the COVID-19 prevention and control. On the other hand, it's about guaranteeing a steady growth of the Jilin province. I think the Jilin province has recovered better than we expected. There are 2,030 million people who is go back into their hometowns. I think with the seed at their hand, with the fertilizer at their home, the preparation stage has been finished once the roads and also the traffic is being connected with the arteries of the Jilin province moving. We think that we are going to encounter a very good harvest, while the wheat and also the rice while the rice plowing in Jilin province has entered into the last season. We are not postpone our plowing and sowing season. Currently, a lot of crops is still being laying in the field. Some of the field is preparing for the further plowing of the crops, for the corns. We have also telephoned the Jilin province provincial government. They told us that without reoccurrence of the COVID-19 pandemic, they have the confidence and they have the preparation to finish the target set up by the state government. And there's not going to be one farmers out of their field and 1 acre of land that is not going to be plowed. Thank you very much. China County's Economist. According to the information of the Ministry of Agriculture about the information of the pigs, for each one of the pigs, the revenues is negative. So can you explain the losses for each one of the pigs that we have cultivated? So what kind of measures or what kind of cornerstones policies did we apply to these pig breeding industries and also the pork production processing industries? Thank you very much. I'm going to divert this question to Mr. Yang from the Animal Husbandry Department. Let me answer your question. The breeding of the pig is a long term, while the ravaging of the pork is only a short term. It's going to be a short term mismatch between the different stages. This phenomenon also occurred with the developed countries. In the year 2021, in June, the pork production has recovered. The Ministry of Agriculture has alarmed all sectors in the society that there is an overproduction in the pigs and the porks, but there is a delay between the information and actual action. And there is a huge drop between the pork consumptions and also the pork supply. This is behind the reasons for the losses in the pork and pig productions. But if we counted the average numbers for the pork productions, for each one pig we produced, there's 560 RMB's profit. This is not quite familiar to your ears, because after we calculated the number in the year 2021, the pig breeding industry and also the pork processing industry is a very profitable industry in the year 2021. There are production cycles in the pig and also animal husbandry industries. We have provided a very detailed brochure for all the animal husbandry industries for around 40 million pigs. And also, we have came up with the policies that we are going to regulate the productions of the pigs for the short term, while regulate the total numbers of the breeding sows in the long term. For some of the sows, which is being registered in stock, we have encouraged certain provinces to increase their numbers in the breeding sows. Our target is to reduce the volatilities in the price. After half the years, the regulations and the total numbers of the sows has been back to the normal registered numbers, and for the consecutive 5 years, the total number is in a green and reasonable range. So our number is 41 million stock. By the end of the March, according to the requirement to regulate the production capacity, all the provinces, and we have also built up 21 different pig production farms, and they are accounting for 1/3 of the total productions in the pigs and also porks across the country. Currently, we are actually guaranteeing a certain number of the breeding sows, stabilizing the whole pig industry. This marks a new attempts in our ministries. I have also done a lot of predictions. I think our experts has estimated that with the new breed pigs being tuned downward. As long as we have stabilized the supportive policies and prevent potential pandemic, in the third quarter this year, we are going to turn this downward trend and help the farmers to be profitable. But there are many uncertainties for the pig breeding industries. I think all of you should follow the normal patterns of the pig cultivation and breeding industries, and do not get rid of the breeding soils. This is also going to help us to guarantee a steady growth. Thank you very much. With agricultural networks, currently we are at a crucial period and a crucial time for the spring plowing seasons affected by the international affairs. The fertilizer in our country has been kept in a high price range. So how do we guarantee a steady spring plowing season with such a high fertilizer? Thank you very much for your concerns and the fertilizing market. Stabilizing the price for the fertilizer, supporting the spring plowing season, is very crucial measures taken by the Ministry of Agriculture. According to our estimations, the total fertilizer supply into the market is going to be 38 million tons, which includes the tons for the manufacturers, imports. With the expanding of the spring plowing time, we have also enhanced the total productions. The supplying ratio of the fertilizer can satisfy the different demands. In the rural areas, I think Mr. Pan has mentioned this before, but affected by the turbulence of the international markets and also driven by the price in the fly coal and market in China. For a certain degree of the fertilizer, the potassiums and also compounded fertilizer has registered a 38.8%, 13.8%, and 14% respectively. At the same time, the pesticide as well as the refined oil is maintained in a high price range. Facing these difficulties, the Ministry of Agriculture and also the NDRCs, together with the MIT, among other different 11 ministries, is working on the different fronts of the supply, logistic, transportations of the fertilizers. In the first stage, the State Council has granted for around 20 million RMBs to stabilize the income of the farmers. This is also going to help us to motivate the farmers' productions going forward. We are going to work together with the relevant ministries and relevant institutions to focus on the spring plowing times and improve the company's effort. This is also going to smooth the transportations of the fertilizers and in the key production areas, and also in the highly demanded regions. We are going to stock a lot of fertilizers to stabilizing the productions of the agri product in the key areas. Thank you very much. The summer grains is the first battle that we are going to encounter this year, affected by the cold wave and the last winter. The total production of the summer grains is going to be affected. So can you tell us the latest update of the current growing of the summer grains. We all know that the summer grains is being plowed in the winter last year because of the bad harvest last year and also the cold wave in the last winter. The summer grain has been greatly affected. Currently, according to the statistics, I think at around the 1st of the June, the grain is going to be blossoming and we are going to start our harvest season. From the general situation, the performance of the summer grain is better than we expected, which is based on the two situations. The first one is that we have a very stabilizing harvest situations in the last winter and also last autumn with effort from the multiple fronts. The total production of the summer grain is being stabilized at 3.5% acres. Apart from that, we have seen an increase in the soybeans. In the weight, we estimate that the total numbers for the summer grain is going to be better than we expected, which is going to be pave the foundations for the harvest. The second conclusion we get is that the summer grain's performance is going to be much better than our expectations. Facing these difficult situations, from the central government to the local government, we are really works really hard. For example, for the central government, we have allocated 5 billion RMBs for the special growings of the summer grains. And for the one-time subsidies to the farmers, we have granted 2 trillion RMBs. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs has dispatched for around 100 officials and 200 agronomists to go to the front line, to go to the field, to guarantee the steady productions of the wheat and also the corns. Apart from working really hard, we think the weather actually helps us. You feel that the winter wheat is affected better, is being benefited by the good weather in the winter. I think in the winter you can feel that Beijing is also enjoying a quite warm weather. And in that winter, there are several rounds of snows and rains which provide sufficient precipitation for the grains. This has laid very good foundations for the harvest. We are focusing on the agricultural productions. Without any harvest, we are not going to be rested. I think there's only 40 days before we are going to harvest the crops. There are many different thresholds await us. We are also going to address these difficulties. Currently, it is the crucial period for the grain, gray wheat disease, and also the bacterial infections for the wheat. We are going to readjust our pandemic prevention regulates. Especially for the lockdown regions. For those of the farmers who are not going to go to the field, they are going to entrust the professional pesticides teams, and we are not going to let the pandemic belate our prevention and control, belate our growing times and also harvest times. At the same time, we are going to spread the latest technical skills, improve the harvest in a single unit. We are also going to prepare for the cross-regional harvesting machineries because we are going to harvest starting on the 1st of the June. And then we are going to put all the grains that we have gained in the stocks. I think all of you have a concern of whether the food supply is sufficient or not. I'm going to address you for the food security problems. We all know that for our country, our food has been harvested for many consecutive years. And last year, we have registered a historic record. The grain output per capita is 482 kilograms. And for the grains and the wheats, the average consumption per capita is 248 kilograms. So what is the consumption number? We consume less than 200 kilograms. With the average, with the owner or the output owned by per capita 240, while the consumer per capita 200. That is to say, we have the confidence to feed every people in our country. We have sufficient supplies and sufficient stocks, especially for the two major crops, the wheat and rice. We have sufficient supplies. As I have mentioned, this year the momentum is turning good for the spring crops. As our chief agronomist has mentioned, we have a very good start in the spring plowing time. No matter the shift in the international situation, we have the capacity to feed Chinese citizens. And we are going to keep the food security. So with Xinjing News, can you tell us the latest update about the investment in agriculture and rural affairs? Thank you very much for your question. We have a very good performance in terms of the investment in the agricultural sectors. According to our statistics, in the first quarter of this year, the investment in the agricultural sector has grown by 6.8%. But we are facing a lot of downward trend, including the downward price of the pigs and also the COVID-19 pandemic. To stabilizing the investment in the agriculture sector, we have used a very flexible policies while guiding the physical policies, industrial policies, and incentivize the social support and guarantees for the agricultural sectors. Moving into the next stage, we are going to work together to expand the investment in the agricultural sectors. Starting for our works, we are going to focus it on the three sectors. The first one is consolidate the investment. This is also very important and quite vital during the 45-year period. We are going to launch a series of the major campaigns and also the major projects. While we are going to give more physical supportive and also the supportives in terms of the agriculture-related loans, this is also a major actions that we are going to adopt it. And the key point is to use the loans to earmark the revitalizations of the rural areas. At the same time, we are also going to smooth the loans, especially for the first-time loans and also the credit-based loans. Thirdly, we are also going to guide the social capitals to invest in the agricultural sectors. We are going to build the agriculture-focused production pilot areas, and this is also going to help us to foster up the upgradings in the agriculture sectors. This is going to combine the social capitals with the farmers. We are going to wrap up today's presser. Thank you very much for all the guests, and also we want to thank for the friends from the media.